All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Underground. Today it is time to review Resident Evil 4 VR mode. Hopefully everyone's been doing well out there, having a great time playing this game and enjoying your PSVR2 headsets overall. What a year it has been, a launch year, a really, really good one. And what a nice little way to cap off the end of the year. Then with, nothing other than one of the biggest games of all time, one of the most popular games of all time, a triple A monster of a game now has graced our precious little headset. So today we're going to be breaking down, doing a deep dive, talking about a little bit of an extended discussion as the ups, the downs, the mostly ups, because that's what mostly this game is, when it comes to Resident Evil 4 VR mode. So I did this one of these recently for Arizona Sunshine. You guys seem to like it. So here we go again. What is up, Mark Smith, Dan Kiefer, Salvador? Let's do this. Now I can see your beautiful little comments that I did not have before. So for those who somehow don't know, Resident Evil 4 VR mode is a VR mode added on to the remake of Resident Evil 4, which is one of the most popular games of all time. Of course, the Resident Evil series is one of the most popular IPs of all time. And it's an action adventure horror, I would say, that does a lot of amazing things, and it's a lot of fun and has some pretty epic moments all throughout. Now, compared to other Resident Evils, this one is not really, it's still scary. It has its moments where it's pretty scary. It definitely nails the creep factor quite a bit. But this one, I think what helps this one out is that it's more of an action adventure that's set in a very horrific and brutal universe versus games like Resident Evil 7, which is one of the most scariest games I've ever played in my life. And then this one's more like Resident Evil Village, which also we were lucky enough to get that launched with PSVR2. So, first and foremost, is this a good game? Well, my friends, I'm happy to report this is a freaking fantastic game. It is awesome, with several amazing moments integrated, woven all between it. But wow, yeah. So this game took me, the main campaign is fully playable in VR. Took me about 14 hours to beat the main story. But I have gone back and replayed certain sections, especially for review. And there's also loads of additional content. And I think that's one of the strengths of this game is that after you finish the campaign, there's plenty of reason to go back into it. And not only is it extremely fun, but there's rewards to get and new things to try out, new weapons, new costumes that you can unlock. There's a bunch of stuff. And some of the stuff I'll mention today, I did actually purchase some of the DLC for this game so that I could check out, everything it has. And luckily, not the separation or whatever it's called DLC, but there's just like some cosmetics, weapons, things like that that you can download and are supported in VR as well. Certain weapons like the Skull Crusher, which is like a lever action shotgun, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Silver Nexus, thank you so much, man, for the donation. Says happy holidays and be of good cheer, PSVR Underground and Game Cats. You as well, my friend, and thank you for the donation and the support. So let's get into it, man. This is an action first-person shooter set in the Resident Evil universe. This takes place 6 years after the events that happened in Raccoon City, which is Resident Evil 2, where you play as the president's best agent, Leon S. Kennedy, which is one of the strengths of this game. I think you get to play as one of the most popular characters of all time, one of the most beloved characters of all time. And that's a really cool thing where you get to step into his shoes and become the ultimate badass agent. And you basically have to you're sent to this village and you have to rescue his kidnapped daughter, the president's daughter. And but as you get there, you kind of discover there's more that's going on there. You discover this dark secret and experiments going on, and you have to kind of uncover what's happening and basically try to put a stop to it while saving. If the stakes weren't high enough for just trying to save Ashley, the president's daughter, well, the stakes become much, much bigger, where, as usual, you're now trying to save the world in the process. So let's kick things off here with, man, the thing right away that you'll notice absolutely amazing is the graphics. Holy crap, does this game look beautiful. Now, it does use 60 frames reprojected to 120, which is usually can be a no-no sometimes. People sometimes don't like it because of the ghosting or the mirror that can happen. And luckily, this is an example of a game that somehow, I don't know, avoided most of this. You might notice a little stuff here and there, but for the most part, this is, guys, one of the most stunning, beautiful games I've ever seen in my life, in VR especially. It is absolutely gorgeous. There, I'm chasing a chicken. Give me a chicken. And I did record all this gameplay footage this morning just for this review to have a fresh look at the game. I've got the HUD turned off and everything, so it's extra immersive. There will be some comparisons to Resident Evil Village as well. And speaking of which, so graphically, Village was really, really impressive. The only thing about it is that it kind of had some aliasing going on, which didn't really bother me too much, especially after getting some prescription lenses for my headset. And visually, this game looks a lot like Village, except it doesn't have the aliasing. It actually somehow looks better, which I was expecting the same graphics as Village. But no, this game actually wins slightly in the graphics department. And one thing I love about this game, man, the sets, a lot of the sets, even starting out, I mean, my jaw was on the floor from the way the graphics look. It has a wonderful art style. All the new Resident Evil games have amazing graphics, amazing art style. They look very, very realistic at times. And they also look really beautiful. The lighting, the atmosphere, all of it is exceptional. The level of detail on every last little thing, from the houses to the ground to the enemies. And one thing I think it actually looks better in this than it did in Village is the castle. So both games have a castle, and the castle here is absolutely stunning. And that was kind of one of the weaker looking things in Resident Evil Village. This one looks beautiful. And this game, just as it goes on, it just seems like it keeps looking better and better and better as you move throughout it. But so graphically, A plus, man. This is one of the best looking VR games I've ever seen. This is one of the advantages of having these flat games converted to VR, is because especially when they're AAA from esteemed developers like Capcom, because a lot of the good from the flat version translates into VR really, really well. Not everything makes it through unscathed, and obviously we'll get into that. They said they had to make some tough choices, but speaking visually, it is stunning. It is one of the best looking games. It might be better looking than Horizon, man. I don't even know. I think I would say that it is a better looking from a technical level. And Horizon is pretty impressive visually, but this is going to go down, at least at this time of this review, as one of the best looking VR games ever made. No doubt about it. But even more important than just beautiful graphics, which are important, the gunplay and the gameplay itself here. Once again, a Resident Evil game just proves that when you translate Resident Evil to VR, You bring everything into first person. You get to interact, grab all the weapons from your body, from your hip, your back, your chest, all the weapons and items. Um, there's a lot of there's a high level of interaction in this game. Now it does give you options to where you can just choose to press X for certain things like breaking boxes or picking up items. But if you really want that next level of immersion, you can absolutely reach out and grab several things and interact with several things. There's lots of static stuff in the environment that you can't touch. Not every last little thing is physics based, and you know, a lot of it's just part of the scenery. But they've also they have I think it shouldn't be mistaken and that this game has a high level of interactivity, and when it comes to VR games, that is one of, if not the most important things about the converting these games, about having these games. And despite making a few sacrifices, the majority of the game, the heavy majority of the game, is highly interactive and feels amazing to play and interact. There's everything from like here you can see I'm picking up like bullets and ammo. I'm breaking boxes with knives. I'm not there's also human sacrifices, that's correct. There's loads of different things to touch and feel and interact with, and they do a really good job with the haptics and adaptive triggers. A lot of the guns feel very different. They all have their own form of manual reloading, which, you know, I am a huge fan of manual reloads. That to me is like, it has to be a given when it comes to VR. I feel like unless, you know, some can get away with it, but I think that should be like a standard. To me, that is a standard of VR, is having high levels of interactive guns and stuff like that. I like popping out the clip or popping in a new clip, charging the charging handle, cocking the charging handle, things like that. And I love that a lot of the different guns in this game feature their own unique ways of reloading them and operating them. It makes every gun feel unique, and there's a pretty good variety of different styles of weapons to choose from. And there's some that they even went a little bit further to make you know, them really special. There's things like the Magnum. With the Magnum, you can actually like twirl the guns around on your fingers and stuff. There's the Skull Crusher, like I mentioned before. I think that's what it's called. It's called the Skull Crusher or Skull Smasher or something like that. But there's like unique made for VR ways that they cock these guns, and I love that, man. Actually, Sedanishing Axe says, I think the sniper needs a little work. I think the sniper's fine. There's a lot of things in this game, gameplay wise, where at first you're just kind of not expecting it. Maybe it's not the most intuitive in design, but it's just once you get used to it, like it feels amazing. Like even the sniper rifle, at first I was like, I wasn't crazy about it latching onto my eye, but then as once I kind of expected it, once I got used to it, like the sniping feels good. Like it feels fantastic. And I tried out both rifles. I tried out, or at least two of the rifles. I tried out different scopes. All of it feels really, really good. And it is super satisfying getting those headshots. But gunplay wise, the guns feel fantastic. They actually feel better than Village. Maybe the sniper felt better in Village, but other than that, everything haptics wise, they really fine tuned a lot of the weapons to feel unique and feel very visceral. And this game has very, very visceral gameplay. And of course, aside from the guns, there's also Leon's trusty knife that he was given. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but he's got the same combat knife that he was given in I think Resident Evil 2. He's got that same trusty knife. Now, the knife is another thing that exceeds what Village did. In Village, you know, it was cool that you could, it was Village, it was very much like a throwing knife. This is very much a hand-to-hand combat, kind of almost guerrilla type hand-to-hand combat with the knife. And dude, the haptics, oh my God, the haptics feel so good. And they use a parrying system in this that also feels amazing. You can parry, you know, if villagers try to throw axes at you, you could smack them with the knife away. If they're attacking you, you can parry them, and if you put some oomph into it, it'll actually stun them and give you an opportunity to counter. And then, of course, there is the scene with the chainsaw guy where you can actually block the chainsaw, and that just feels incredible. Such an iconic, it feels like such an iconic thing, the way it's used here. It was really, really well done. And as you go through the game, you can, so the catch with this, however, is that the knife breaks. Especially starting out, it breaks very, very fast, and it as fun as it is and everything, it's not super useful at first, only for like emergencies. But the good news is you can upgrade all of your weapons, including the knife, and make them much, much stronger. And you can also obtain some other knives that have much better durability and damage. And you'll see some here in the footage as well, where I bust out the knife quite a bit. Like I said, I recorded this footage this morning so that I'd have some good footage for this review. And I was a little low on ammo and had to resort to my knife quite a bit. So it is an absolute lifesaver. Learn to use the knife. It is essential, and it's also really, really fun. One thing that I think this game also does better over Village is I really, really like the enemy designs. Now, I like them in Village as well, but I think just the general array of enemy types and whatnot in this are fantastic. And like I said, they definitely nailed the creep factor, which you'll see in just a second. So there's this Las Plagas going around infecting people. Here's the knife, here's the parry, and then I straight up cut off her arm, this evil woman or whatever. But here's the creep factor, man. These things give me the heebie-jeebies. Whatever these tentacle things, this plagus, this plague that's going around and popping out, that is so freaking nasty, man. Some of the enemies maybe aren't as scary as some of the other Resident Evil Village games, but they are badass, like in design, in art design, and like I said, they definitely nailed the creep factor whenever you dismember somebody, which I like that there's dismemberment in this, by the way. That they have these creepy, crawly little tentacle things that pop out. It's so disgusting, and I absolutely love it. They seriously nailed this. But the enemy designs, there's some great boss designs as well, some boss battles, but tons and tons of really cool characters in this, which I think is a good strength of the game. Very memorable moments that it has. So, and yeah, the level of damage that is detailed is really nice. You can, like I said, you can dismember, you can damage them after they're on the ground and visibly see all these things. There's like I said, some of the stuff that translated over from the flat version, it's not like this was stuff that was designed for VR, but it enhances the VR experience because it just, in terms of immersion, there's a lot of little fine details. I think more detailed gameplay or environments or interactions make for more immersive VR games, and a lot of the stuff translated well from the flat games, such as, you know, either the damage to the enemies or damage to the environment. I thought it was really fascinating that there's different. Now, you can't interact with everything in the environment, but like physically touch and feel it, but you can interact with it by like shooting it and it shows like a unique kind of damage. Things like metal teapots and stuff will have dents in them. There's like fish all over the ground. If you shoot them, they have like damage to them. It's got fish damage, guys. 10 out of 10 fish damage. But yeah, there's lots of really cool things to interact with here. Now the first couple hours of the game, you're basically making your way through the village, trying to locate Ashley to rescue her. The second half of the game kind of takes a twist where, you know, you get Ashley, now you're trying to stop this plague. And there might be some minor spoilers here, guys. I'm going to try to avoid any spoilers as much as possible. But there might be some. I mean, the game's been out for a really long time, so most of you probably already know some of the stuff, but I'm going to not give away everything just in case. I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible with maybe some stuff here and there. So in terms of let's get this out of the way real quick. You know, we've already talked about this quite a bit, and I think most people are aware now by this point. There are some things that, when translated to VR, they didn't translate as well as Resident Evil Village, and in particular, it's mostly the cutscenes are like, you know, cinema screen stuff, and then there's like minor things here and there where it's basically like it'll cut to third person. Now, I think it's pretty well done despite going into third person, but it's obviously more immersive to keep things in the first person perspective, to keep you in from the eyes of Leon at all times, to make you feel like him at all times. But that being said, while it was a surprise at first, it didn't end up bothering me as the game went on, because first of all, there is a high level of interaction. Stuff like this that you just saw, you can, when you down some enemies, they can come back and like in a second form, and they start twitching on the ground and like convulsing, and you actually have a chance to take your knife, and if you swing it, it actually keeps you in first person and stabs them, and eliminates them from coming back. And that's kind of what I wish that they did with a couple other things, such as the kick. Like when it kicks, it's okay if it has to do an animated like little thing, and like an animation for it, but it can still keep you in first person. So if they ever, you know, I hope like, it's fine the way it is, but I do hope if that they have it in them to release another update or two to this game, where it actually stays in first person. Just, you don't have to spin the player around, but just show like the foot coming up and kicking them or something, or play the animation similar to the way that they did the knife stabs, because doing that thrust and everything is very satisfying. And the stealth kills, which was an element of this game that I was not expecting, was that the stealth is actually pretty damn good. But you know, it's weird because there's a bit of an inconsistency here, where there's some things you can interact with, some things you can't. Like some things you'd be surprised that you can interact with, just because there's other things that you can't. And then there's also surprise third person, first person perspectives, where like you're like expecting it to either, you know, be in first person and it goes to third person, or you're expecting it to, you know, like crawling, like if you jump out of if you break through a window, it goes to third person. But if you just press X and crawl out the window, it stays in first person and crawls out the window. So it's really interesting. But at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, if this is obviously one of the disadvantages that developers have when converting a third person game to first person, is trying to work around this. Now, I do think if they had a little bit more time, that this could be implemented, because they did it for the majority of the game. So I don't see why not. Obviously for probably time and budget constraints, they couldn't make every last little thing stay in first person. And so you've got like cutscenes like this here. I would like them to, if they could release one more update just clean up the rest of that and keep it first person. Now, at the end of the day, though, it is not a game breaking thing. It is not a troublesome thing. Because like I said, the majority, these when you play the entire game, these things end up being very minor. And I remember the Quest version had some of this stuff as well, where it would either go into third person, or it would it would like go into third person or do like quick time events and stuff. They got rid of the quick time events here. But it still cuts to third person sometimes. But yeah, don't hurt yourself trying to kick in real life. But as far as this game goes, man, what an adventure that this game is. It is a really, really fun campaign with some amazing set pieces. And what I do love now we got the third person talk out of the way. Now, there is a lot of stuff in this game where they do keep it in first person. There's stuff like a minecart level, which you've seen in the trailers a little bit. Holy crap. Like, that is really, really well done. That sequence was so freaking exciting. And they actually added something interesting to it where you have to physically lean while you're going through the mines on the cart ride. Not only are you shooting at enemies and stuff, but you have to physically lean to keep the cart from rolling over. That shit was intense and super fun. It was awesome. Super cool video bro says the minecart was my favorite. That was the moment I realized this was my favorite VR game ever. It's stuff like that you absolutely it makes it just way more enjoyable. And experiencing that in VR is like just amazing compared to I think back to like all the minecart games, all the minecart sequences from different games, whether it be like honestly like Donkey Kong or just Resident Evil 4 flat mode. It is amazing in VR, super fun. But there's like loads of other little sequences like that where it's like, no, they just keep you in first person. One of the ones that I thought was a little rough is the well, let me get to this one first. First of all, once you get past like once you get into a couple chapters in, there's a section that kind of like things open up a little bit, and if y'all caught my live stream, you saw me battle the lake monster. That sequence was a ton of fun. Now, again, another example of where it's not perfectly done, where you're picking up these rods and you're supposed to be like throwing them, but you really just click and let go, and it just launches the harpoon at the beast or whatever. I think in the original and the Quest version, there was like a spear gun. So it was just like you aim and shoot, which would have been nice. But these are, again, a couple examples of the small minor things they had to sacrifice in order to get it to work without completely redesigning it. And that's, again, one of the advantages of the game, like Village being in first person and converting that one. But yeah, the lake monster was a lot of fun. The boat itself, you guys, the boat is so much fun to ride around in and control. It feels 10 times better than the boat from Village, which was like, it almost felt like you were using a D-pad to control. This boat feels way better, and it's just, there's something about it. It feels very like physics based. It feels fantastic. And there's a section after the lake monster where you have to kind of solve some puzzles, and you have to drive around the lake. And not only does it look beautiful, but it feels great to drive around. And then as a bonus, there's like little barrels hidden in the water that you can crush over and get some gold coins. And I absolutely love this whole little section. Just going around in the boat. It was so fun. Like I literally had to like rip myself out of the boat because I could just sit there and just relax and do that all day. It's super, super cool. The boat felt fantastic. There's another sequence with a jet ski, and this one was kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, because the jet ski feels like it's a little bit more rough. That it's almost like it's wanting to keep you on rails, but it's giving you some control, and it's like it makes you grab both the handles, which is nice, and it wants you to turn. But if you just sit here and just try to just turn the handles, it doesn't. It's not always super responsive. But what I realized is that, and I replayed this section several times. But actually, if you really like bend over, bend your knees a little bit, and arch your arms a little bit, and like turn your body with it, it does actually control a little bit better. So it was interesting to me that rather than having like a little bit more just smoother arcade kind of feel to it, which I probably would have preferred, they went for this like more like, get into it and turn your whole body and everything. And but yeah, it's the jet ski part was a little rough, which I hated it at first, but then I replayed it and I was like, okay, another one of these things in this game where it's like it's not bad, it's just you kind of have to figure it out what it wants you to do, and it's not the most intuitive and natural feeling, you know what I mean? But it still works, and it's still a really fun sequence. One thing I also love about this game is that there are multiple saves that you can have. You can have a lot of saves on this game, and so you can save a lot of your favorite moments. You can save a lot of important parts in your run. What I would do constantly was like, I'd save a part where I was at the merchant, and then I'd buy a bunch of guns or whatnot, and that I'd want to experiment with, but didn't know about them. And yes, I did get the Red 9, which is pretty cool, a great gun. And I would experiment with these weapons, and then like I'd make like a separate save file just in case I ended up not liking them as much, and could go back and to where I before I spent all my money. And I actually got through the majority of this game with my base weapons and just saved up all my money, saved up all my valuable items that I could trade. That way I could just have a save spot where I could just splurge and buy everything. That was kind of my strategy to, with such a limited time and wanting to get a review out, how do I get to try out everything with and that was basically my strategy. And the cool thing is you can actually get through the majority of the game on standard, at least. You can get through the majority of the game with just most of the base weapons that you have. There's a couple that you want to pick up and a couple that you probably want to avoid. There's things like the Punisher, which has penetration power. That's really, really important to have for later on in the game. And again, some of the weapons are they're so visceral in the way they feel, and they feel so good to play. But yeah, there's weapons like the Punisher. I got like the other sniper rifle, the submachine gun, and of course like an upgraded knife. And I did the majority of the game with just the base weapons and upgraded them. But this is the best part, is there's definitely more guns that you can kind of unlock and upgrade, and they're really good. They're really, really fun to use. They're really powerful. Whatever your play style is, there is kind of a gun or a loadout for you that you can equip and go around using, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, a lot of the weapons feel amazing. I cannot stress that enough. And they all affect different enemies in different ways. So there's a couple things here. There's stuff like in this game that is a little bit hidden. There is, when you start, you look down, you've got like your holsters and whatnot, and they're like popping out in front of you when you crouch. And again, one of those things that feels weird at first, but you get used to it. I didn't really have any problem with it. I used just the default belt and holsters stuff from the get-go all the way through to the end. However, if you don't like it or want to make some adjustments, you can go into the settings, and it does allow you. It's not the same as where you can. It's a little bit different in design. You can adjust like the height, the width, and the depth of it. But if you don't like where the equipment is set by default, you can go in there, adjust it. You don't have full freedom to put it wherever you want, but you can adjust it. Like, let's say if you keep accidentally grabbing grenades or something when you're trying to reload or something like that, you can definitely adjust it out of the way. I think I did actually do that. I moved my grenades out of the way. So that's really, really nice. So, dude, I mean, look at these sets, though. These sets are just absolutely gorgeous. These graphics, this lighting at night, the storms, all this stuff is just beautiful. One thing I'm about to find here is a piece of treasure that's also in the game. So you've got your merchant is back in action in the game. A fan favorite merchant he is. He's also many places in the game, so it actually makes it really easy to kind of upgrade at the right time. He's always conveniently right around the corner for you, waiting so that you can buy new guns, get upgrades. You definitely want to prioritize expanding your storage constantly. But he actually has multiple functions here. Not only can you buy weapons from him, but you can sell weapons and items. You can tune up your weapons to make them stronger, more durable, more powerful, all those things. And then you can find different valuables in the game that you can collect and then trade to him for special, unique, or rare items. Things like treasure maps, stocks for your guns. There's a nice, little slew of different secret stuff you can get from him. But the selling thing, one of the things I really, really liked, here he is now, is that they actually have this, they have these items you can sell, and there's lots of treasure you can find. And this is like a fun little side gameplay element that I actually really enjoyed, was that you kind of can go treasure hunting and look for treasure all around the villages, the castle, and everything. And then from also different various ways you can find like rubies and gems. And one of the cool things you can do is you can take these, like you can take a crown and get 10,000 credit points for it or whatever, or you can combine items in this. And that is something that's also been pretty popular in especially the more modern Resident Evil games where you can combine items. But I actually really, really enjoyed finding like a valuable piece of treasure and then finding the rubies for it. And then if you match like certain colors or certain types, you can find the perfect combination and make your items that you're trying to sell, these jewels or whatever, like get way more value out of them. And that is absolutely the way I recommend going about it. If you have some jewels, just hold on to them, wait for you to get some of the same colors and stuff, then find a piece of jewelry and attach them and then sell them for much more money. DLC says how to increase difficulty. Well, I think just when you start the game or when you're in the main menu, you can set the difficulty as well as any extras. Like if you want to change Leon's costume, Ashley's costume, things, if you have these items unlocked or if you have the DLC, it does give you some options to do this stuff. But let's see here. But yeah, man, in terms of like, there's just so many moments in this that are really, really impressive, super fun. There's lots of thrill ride elements and sequences. And then there's loads of secrets and loads of replay value. And I think, again, one of the big advantages RE4 has, whether it be over Village or just other games, is it's a fantastic, 14, at least for me, it was 14-hour main campaign. But then there's like tons of reasons to go back and play it and tons of cool secrets to discover, treasures to find, loot to find, things like that. And that just adds another layer of replay value, including trophies. This game, unlike Village, has trophy support. Thank God, because this is absolutely a game that I would love to get the platinum in. I don't trophy hunt as much as I used to, but that's only because of a lack of time. So if ever, I have the free time again, I will absolutely get back into trophy hunting, and have some fun with that. But that is overall just basically my thoughts on this game. It's absolutely fantastic. If I had to rate it, I don't always like doing ratings, especially so soon after playing. But if I were to give this game a rating, I'd probably give it a 9.5. Is where I'm at right now. Now that could go a little bit higher. I could see this being a 10 out of 10 for some people. I could see it being a 9 out of 10 for some people. But holy crap, the more you play this game, the more it rewards you. Yeah, I saw IGN's review, and while they had some things that they said right about the game, I don't know. There's also things about the game that they once again failed to look in the options menu, and it's IGN, man. So I'm like, did they really write this, or did they go watch other people's stuff and then make a review? I never trust IGN's reviews for VR. I rarely do. There's always something that they miss or get wrong or mess up, and which is fine, but I don't know, when you're the biggest publication for games, media, content, whatever, you probably shouldn't have those mistakes as much. Yeah, in terms of like comparing this to the other version, like the older version, I definitely like this version way more than the Quest version, although the Quest version was excellent. I definitely like this one more. Although that did have a certain level of charm because of its datedness. But guys, overall, this is a fantastic, depending on who you are, 15, 20-hour campaign. That's the full story in VR. It's basically a masterpiece, with maybe a couple minor issues, is what I would say. A masterpiece. It is almost perfect, is what I would say. And but yeah, this is one of the best games in VR I've ever played. It's super, super fun. And man, yeah, I hope to see more of this, man. I'm not done with the Resident Evil universe in VR. I hope Capcom either makes, I'd love to see them bring back Resident Evil 7. I'd love to see that remade for PSVR2. I'd love to see Resident Evil 2. And then I'd also like to see like Resident Evil 9 or whatever the next Resident Evil is going to be. I hope that they have VR in mind when creating it, because when they do that, it is saying, dude, here we go. This is another look. This is a look from inside the castle. I don't know if some of you remember this part or have seen this part. This is kind of a puzzly area. But the flat screen right here does not do it justice how amazing this actually looks. But this looks incredible in the headset. It is so gorgeous. And this is like just one of the many, many, many set pieces in this game that look incredible. But yeah, man, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. This is an absolute must-have. This is going to be a killer app for many. And like I said, if I had to give it a review score, probably 9.5. The only little dings being some of these like little third person things. Again, minor complaints, not even really complaints, but minor, just how could this be better? Because at the end of the day, if they kept everything in first person, if they fleshed out some of these cutscenes, they'd have to do a lot of additional work. Obviously, they'd have to maybe rework some things. They would have to remake a lot of stuff in order to make this like, the ultimate immersive thing, but it would warrant a complete 10 out of 10 if it's not already. I mean, it could definitely pass for one already, but This was an interesting part where I was just going around seeing what I could interact with and whatnot. But yeah, man, what a thrill ride this is. It's a really well-paced adventure. It has a good variety of adventure tropes from, like, minecart stuff, running away from explosions. Boss battles are really, really good. And then, like I said, the characters, the sets, all of this is just so high quality. And Resident Evil 4 is a little bit different because it's got this kind of over the topness to it, where it's just like, it's so absurd at times, and I absolutely love how ridiculous it gets. Magnum Gaming says, why does my shotgun feel like it has a delay after the pump? I don't know. I didn't really have any problem like that with it. Anything you guys want me to answer before we get out of here? But this is amazing, man. Super Cool Video Bro says you have to upgrade the fire rate. This game is absolutely fantastic. One of the best VR games I've ever played. It's a masterpiece in its own right. And then, in terms of, this game is a prime example of why we want flat games converted to VR. It's also an example of some of the drawbacks or limitations of that, where, especially the hurdles of trying to convert third person to first person. I will take that all day, every day, until there's a proper solution in the future, or, if that's the way, if that's what it takes to get these games in VR. Because here's the thing, guys. You can have these immersive VR interactions where every last little thing you can pick up and interact with. But I think at the end of the day, that's not what makes a game fun. I think those are really cool, VR elements that can only happen in VR, which is really nice. But at the end of the day, it's the contents of the game. It's the gameplay, the game loop, the replay value, the quality of the graphics, all these things, the story, they add up much, much better. And here's me twirling the gun here. When you take away some of the VR elements of this, you get some third person cutscenes, you get some stuff you can't interact with. When you take away the interactions and stuff of VR games, I mean, you're left with basically nothing. And that's the difference here, man. Not saying, not to discredit games that are really built from the ground up, designed for VR. They can be better. If you made a game like this that was built for the ground up for VR, yes, of course it would exceed what this game has achieved. But the reality is that's just not happening right now. That's not what developers are doing. That's not even really a viable method of game development right now, with the player base being a little bit smaller, or significantly smaller than the non-VR modes. So I love this. I hope to see more of this. I hope to see more companies do this. I think that, especially starting out, especially VR still being kind of its infancy, I feel like games like these are super important for the growth of VR, and for figuring some solutions out and figuring things out and providing tons of content, instead of waiting for VR to get to the point to where games of this magnitude can be built from the ground up. That's going to be a while. You have the resources, you have the stuff available now to just convert the stuff, and it makes for, again, one of the best VR games I've ever played. It's amazing. This game is amazing, and it's beautiful. It's super fun. It feels visceral as hell. I was a little late to cut that guy. I still do hope that there's one update left in them for this game, where they can maybe patch in, some first person animations for the climbing, the roundhouse kick things. I love, just because I love the way the stealth kills feel, and those things. I'm totally fine with that. Have it be an animation. The virtual resistance is how y'all beat it so quickly. I've been playing on hardcore for almost 13 hours. I did play on standard mode first so that I could get through it. I want to do a replay on, look at that. That's so nasty, man, but goddamn does it look good. But that's so gross. And in VR, it looks even better, man. As you could imagine, it looks even better. What up, dude? Yeah, I got through it on 14 hours on standard to get through it first, and then, but that's the beauty of a game like this. You can replay it over and over and over. Once you beat the game on normal, you actually unlock professional difficulty. So I would probably maybe advise doing that first, you know, for most people. I don't know. It does feel like, you know, some of the boss fights, playing on standard, I will admit, did feel a little too easy at times. Some of the sections, like when you're defending that room, I think Act 5 maybe, you have to barricade yourself in this room and defend and stay alive, basically survive for a certain amount of time. That section, some of the boss fights, they do feel a little too easy for me on standard difficulty. But again, I was just trying to play through it once to get through it and, you know, see everything that the game has to offer. Ninja says, is it better than The Village? I think there's a trade-off when it comes to this in Village. There's definitely a trade-off. I think Village has obviously, majority of Village has better VR implementation. I like the first-person cutscenes. I like how it always stays in first person. Stuff that in Village, like, you know, especially towards the end when you're fighting, what's his name? The dude with the hat or whatever, and you have some machinery that you're using and it all stays in first person. The fact that those moments stayed in VR was absolutely mind-blowing to me. But yeah, I think this game definitely wins in several areas. Like just the fun factor. It's definitely a lot more fun in some ways. It's better pacing, better set pieces, better graphics, better characters, better story. Many things are better about this than Village. Better knife use, as you can see. Better enemy design, but Village will always have that slight advantage when it comes to the VR implementation, converting it from first person to VR. I like the enemies, I like the sets in this a lot more. But if you just want maximum VR-ness, then Village does take the edge there. But just keep in mind, this has better replay value. Like, yeah, this has so many advantages despite being converted from a third-person game. This still has so many more advantages in terms of content and replay value and so many things, man. Anything else I need to touch base on? Like I said, there are some secrets you can unlock, things like trinkets for your guns as well, different add-ons you can put, laser sights, scopes, different things. Let me look at my notes here, say anything else. At the end of the day, man, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Super cool video, bro. Keeps asking me No Man's Sky or Resident Evil 4. Why do you see me doing that? Or why do you keep asking me that? It's so hard. I mean, that's a tough one, man. I don't know. I can't answer that right now. Do you see them putting RE2 in VR? I hope so, man. One thing I love that this game does is for people that, you know, for people that love Resident Evil 4, then it's like, hey, you have another reason to play it, another way to experience it. But I think what's important about Silver Nexus, I totally agree. Play both. You need both this and Village in your library because you're looking at two of the best VR games ever made. Absolutely. It's just a hard question. Super cool video, bro, between this and they're drastically different games. A lot easier to compare this to Village than it is to No Man's Sky. But let's see. I wish the items could come close to you as you pick them up. Well, so Magnum, just as I pointed out, make sure you pay attention to the video. You can actually pick up items. That's what I was saying. This game, a lot of people are going to think that it's lacking in VR interactions. It is most certainly not. You can absolutely push doors open. You can every single item drop you can actually pick up and hold and examine like right in front of you. This game has way more VR interaction than it may seem on the surface, and I tried to capture it in this gameplay here, displaying that, showing like all the things you can interact with, because there's more than it seems on the surface. But yeah, man, what a game, what an adventure. I cannot wait to see what Capcom does next. I'd love for them to try their hand at like bringing like Monster Hunter or something. But yeah, Capcom are definitely keeping hope alive for VR, and in terms of like, you know, VR will always be well, I won't say always be fine, but it will likely do well. It will just grow slowly. But stuff like this speeds up the process, man. Absolutely. Stuff like this, when if you want to get somebody's interest, that's what I was saying before I lost my train of thought, is like for people that didn't like Resident Evil 4 before, or weren't interested, introducing it this way to a brand new audience brings a lot of new people in, a smaller audience than the base game already has, but you're still introducing a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't have touched it to Resident Evil 4, which is really, really nice, and just the Resident Evil series. It's really incredible the work that Capcom have done. That's 3 VR games now, 3 AAA VR games they have brought to us. And I really, really hope to see more games follow suit. But yeah, man, amazing stuff. What a great treat to have before the year end. What a great way to end the year. Some big AAA games we got. Lots of fun. Dude, I love spinning that Magnum, by the way. This is not the last of my videos for Resident Evil 4. I'm definitely gonna get into some. I'm definitely gonna get into some other stuff that's going on, because there's a lot to keep up with right now. There's a lot of new releases up and coming. But I'm nowhere near done with this game yet. I've got more videos planned that I think you guys are going to really, really like and enjoy. I'd also like to do some live streams. Once you beat the game, what I was going to say this earlier too, once you beat the game on normal, you actually unlock professional mode, which basically eliminates auto saves, and I think it makes like the enemies more stronger, things like that. So it's pretty cool. But thank you so much, Magnum, for the donation and super cool video, bro. Love you guys. Love all you guys. I hope you're having a great day today, man. Good times, man. Good times indeed. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you want to see more, definitely extended discussions, extended looks. I feel like there's so much more I could really go into on this, but again, I gave away some spoilers. I don't want to spoil everything. It's hard, but man, just what a fantastic game, and really excited about the next one. So love the gore in this game too. The gore is so good. All right, guys, thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest of the day. I might be back later with something. I'm not sure just yet, but I hope to. I got some things to work on. But I will see you guys very, very soon once again, and I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.